is what we call the messy middle. The messy middle in recovery terms, when someone's coming into recovery, it's that time when they get treatment or they get sober and clean, and now they are reintroducing themselves into their life. Well, their life is a mix. It's a mix of people they spend time with before. It's a mix of old friends, old relationships. It's all kinds of mix. So they're trying to establish themselves in a new way that supports a healthy lifestyle, recovery, mental health recovery, but there's still stuff that's in the middle. Like they still have these old friends, these old relationships, these old patterns, and it can be difficult. There's also a lot of confusion at how well is my loved one doing? Um, are we still stuck on some things? So I want to jump into this a little today, and we have Sarah Brown joining us to help bounce some of this off. She's got her own perspectives of being a family member and experiencing this with a family member. And I'd love to hear her take on almost all of this today. So we'll start with this quote. The middle is messy, but it is also where the magic happens. Brene Brown. And this other one I really like is growth is in the uncomfortable. So Sarah, why don't you introduce yourself a little, and what's your initial take on the messy middle?
The messy middle is, I love that Brene Brown quote because it is so true. That's where the magic happens. That's where you just feel so many emotions. As a family member, I had so many different emotions, but I feel like our alcoholic has just as many emotions: fear, anxiety, stress, worry. How do I get life? How do I do all of that? So I think you could different ways. I didn't do a lot of family groups and a lot of just talking to anyone when my loved one got out of treatment right away. And I wish I would have, because I walked on eggshells. I didn't understand. And I don't know if I was willing to know they're going through all these emotions. This has got to be hard for them. I just kept looking at myself like I'm the victim here. I'm the one who had to do all this while they were in treatment. I don't know what it's going to look like. And I walked on eggshells instead of communicating, seeing it from their side. So I love this conversation, this topic, so that we can get a different perspective on what it looks like and what it looks like for us.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Let's jump into some ways that we can support our loved one. And these are 4 areas that I felt like were worth channeling today. I'm sure there's many, many other areas. And I just want to read through them, and then I'd like your take on any of them that stand out to you. So the first one is practicing letting go of the need for certainty. Now, from the client's perspective, a lot of time they don't really know. They don't know what's next. It's new territory, or they're getting no records like 30-day chips, 60-day chips. There's a lot of not sure. It can be a little scary. It can be uncomfortable. It can be confusing. It's unpredictable. But they do know that they're taking it day by day, one day at a time, just trying to stay there, stay growing. Another one is, I like this perspective is more from like the family view of practice supporting hard work and effort. So you see they're challenging old habits. It can be, these difficult habits are hard to break. They're trying to cultivate new ones, and they need support through that. The third one, practicing leading with love. Let your heart speak and not your old ways of thinking. One thing I recognize in working in this industry is I get people in a phase where they're ready for support and help. I don't get them for the months, weeks, years before that where they're really chaotic or really stuck and causing a lot of damage and burning a lot of bridges and pissing off a lot of people. So it's a little tougher from my perspective to see that, but I recognize that the families come in with a lot of damage, and they're like, "Whoo, just take my wrecked car and repair it, please." So that's something that I think you have to reshift around love. And then the last one here is practicing non-judgment. People need to know you love them without judgment. It's progress over perfection. It may not be their final stint. They may lapse. They may struggle still. That's not going to change. I had one lady tell me this week, my mom just said she's so excited for me to come out and be so much better. She's like, I don't want that expectation. I don't want people to think I've got to be perfect now. She's like, I'm not going to be perfect. I'm still going to have behaviors. I'm still going to have attitudes. I'm still going to struggle, but I'm hoping to stay in sobriety. So those are kind of the four cores. And I'd love to hear, Sarah, what stands out to you? What can you add to this?
Oh, all of them are so good. First one, letting the need for certainty. I think I didn't know what the expectation they had. I didn't know what expectation I had. I really talked about it, hadn't thought about it. And so again, I had a lack of communication. So if I don't need, if I don't put up these expectations, if I'm not like, what is this going to look like? What's your rehab going to look like? What's tomorrow going to look like? How is this next holiday going to be? How are you going to, I just think I put so much unnecessary pressure because I wasn't aware that I had these expectations and that I was forcing them on my loved one. I definitely didn't lead with love in some situations. And so I love that one as well, because we're all human. If the roles were reversed, I would want my loved one to just love me and just know I'm just doing the best I can. Communication for all of these is just where if I woulda, coulda, shoulda, would have been just being able to talk about it and not wondering if he's gonna stay sober this time or all of those things. So I wish I would have been more vocal, and now I have tools and I can have meetings and I have people I can talk to help me see a different perspective, but to help me realize it's okay to talk about it. I shut everyone out around me because I didn't want them to know how bad the drinking was or how bad our situation was, or I was in denial, saying it's not as bad as I'm making it out to be. It's really not. Like, I don't know, just lots of things. So I didn't feel comfortable talking about it. But I think that would change a lot with our loved ones if we could lead with love and just communicate. Like, hey, doing so awesome. I don't have expectations. I'm just glad that we're together and work on this one day.
Well, something too that came up this week that I think is interesting is one of the ladies said, my mom asked my son how I'm doing, and that really bothers me. She's like, I want her to come to me and not go through my kid, who now is going to be the middleman. Why do families do that? Like, from your perspective, like what's kind of the reason for that?
So in my situation, I felt like I couldn't talk really about my emotions because it might trigger my loved one. Like, what if I showed that I was upset? What if I was like, hey, are you thinking about drinking today? Are you thinking, the way my body language was, the way I wasn't secure and trusting. So I couldn't portray it in a way that wasn't like accusation. So I felt like I didn't talk and communicate that way because it would come across either they wouldn't trust my reaction. So I think I didn't have those conversations. I was worried, like, if I say something, is that going to trigger them? Are they going to drink again? Are they going to use again? Are like, I think that was a big one for me. And if I would have got to a point where I could believe I didn't cause it, I can't cure it, I can't control it, like nothing I'm going to say or do is going to have them relapse. That's not in my control. If they're going to do it, they're going to find a reason and blame it on someone, but it's going to happen regardless what we say or do. And I think knowing and understanding that now, I can say, hey, I could have conversations with him. I feel like that's a way of showing trust to our family member, our loved one. Like the trust was gone. I burned lots of bridges, but if I would have just, I mean, it's just respectful. It's treating non-judgmental. It's leading with love. Those types of things. I don't think I would have been as scared to talk about it, but I was worried I would say the wrong thing or they'd be upset. So they'd start drinking again.
Yeah, I love your perspective shift on that, is going back to the things that you've learned now that could have helped you then. And that's one of the hopes we have with this course, is that you can learn some of these pieces along the way and not have to repeat some of the difficult things that, man, they're hard to go through twice, 10 times, 100 times. Something else that stood out to me, even today, we're talking about how in addiction, or even heavy mental health, it's almost like there's two people. There's the addict's side, and then there's the person who's trying to be clean and sober. And the addict side gets really strong in certain areas, and oftentimes some of those areas are like manipulative or gaslighting or different things, emotional boundary overtaking, like whatever you want to call it. And then their new recovered self is vulnerable, raw, sensitive, still learning, kind of weak, almost like you just got out of a car accident, you're trying to learn how to re-walk. But then the addict is doing push-ups in the corner and running marathons and is super strong. So there's these two personalities. There's the one that was so overbearing and strong in the negative way, and this new soft one that wants you to love them and trust them and believe everything they say. Have you experienced that dichotomy, or what does that feel like from the family side for you?
Oh, absolutely. I felt like it was just so much and so hard all the time. And then when my loved one got out of treatment, I really was like, is he trying to trick me? Like, he can't be this happy. Like, what is going on? And we kind of talked about a pink cloud before in a previous week. And I just didn't know it was a thing. And I didn't know how to show support because I felt like he was like, why is he acting so happy? Why is he so excited? Why, like, it's been so hard for me. Why can't he look at what I've been dealing with and what I just didn't understand, and I just didn't know, and I didn't ask anyone what it might look like when they get out and what kind of fears they have and those types of things. So it is a completely different personality. Like I mean, my loved one was like very manipulative, all those things, and then came out and just was like this laughing, happy. Oh, I don't even worry about those things anymore. I'm like, oh yeah, you can just stop worrying about them. Sure, that happens.
Good for you.
Yes, well, I still got to worry about it. So that caused resentment on my part, but just because I wasn't aware. I didn't know. And the treatment center that my husband went to didn't do family visits. We didn't do phone calls the first week, which is common, but then he had I talked to him Tuesday and Thursday, and he was there for over 30 days. So I probably talked to him 6, 7, 8 times for 15 minutes each. I didn't get to see him. I didn't get to see, I mean, that wasn't enough time on the phone to see any kind of change.
So interesting.
Effect. And I had patients I didn't realize I had. And I kind of was demanding, like, okay, you're back now. You missed this. We've got to get this done. And I kind of burst his bubble when he was like, I'm going to do 90 meetings in 90 days. And I'm like, you've been gone for so long, and now you're wanting to spend all of the time. But a friend point out to me, like, you couldn't control his addiction. Why do you think you can control his recovery? He's choosing recovery every day. Why wouldn't you want to let him do it however that looks? Because that means
Sarah, cut out for just a second. Can you repeat that last few sentences? Sorry, now I can hear you.
Yeah. I just was saying I wanted so bad for so many years. If he could just get sober, then we'd be fine. And so then when he came out, I was like, okay, you're sober, but now what? Like, and that's where communication comes in. That's where we can lead with love. That's where we can have non-judgmental, but have conversations and say, what was it like in rehab? What kind of things have you gone through? Like, where are you at? How can I help in daily, navigating old friends and new friends? And I just was too scared to have those conversations, but those matter. Those show your loved ones that you love them.
So one thing that I'm curious about is we have families that are worn out, burned out, frustrated, and they'll drop off their loved one, and it's like a relief. Like, oh, okay, someone else can babysit for a while I go freaking get a nice sleep. From what I'm hearing you say, though, is you wish you'd have been more included, so you could have seen those changes, could have been more involved, and wouldn't be so shocked to see, is this really him or is this some made up guy? Um, Gradual would have been better for you. Is that right, or what are you saying there?
Yeah, I just didn't even know that was an option. I know different rehabs do it different ways, but I can see a difference in some of the people I know that are in treatment now to where I'm like, I mean, you can just see a light in their eyes. They're back. They're working on themselves. They're vulnerable. They're trying to figure out what the root cause of why I keep drinking. And you can visibly see a difference. And I look back at my experience and was like, wow, I mean, maybe that would have helped me be able to realize like he's just not trying to trick me. Like he just didn't flip a switch and he's like, yeah, I'm all better. I'm never going to drink again. So I feel like I feel like it would have been better for me in my situation looking back on it. But I also had those feelings that I don't have to worry if he's going to if he's driving drunk today, if he's going to get a DUI, is he going to come home? I mean, I did sleep good. Like, oh, okay, he's somewhere safe and he's not going to hurt him. So yeah.
Yeah, because I see it both ways, I think, and I want family members to jump into education and jump into support and to grow along the way. But I can also respect, like, you're tired. This might not be your first rodeo. Maybe they've been to rehab many times, and you're just at this point saying, "Fix my car, fix my person, and when they get out, then we'll talk." So, how do we, I don't know, persuade people to jump in a little more, or even though they're fatigued and tired, how do we persuade them to get along the ride with us?
I think for me, I needed some kind of support. And I shut out family members, I shut out friends, all that before because I just was like, I don't want anyone else to ask me how I'm doing because we're dealing with a lot here. Um, so I couldn't trust myself, I couldn't trust him. So support groups made a huge difference for me. And being able to talk to someone who was going through the same thing. So there's family groups like this one. There's other programs like Al-Anon for Alcoholics Anonymous for family members. There's a lot of different groups that you can go to. I think that for me was huge because once I involved myself with that, I was surrounded by people who understood how I felt. They understood the devastation, the fear. Doing this again, we're at it again. And were able to give me a different perspective because a lot of those people were maybe years out and just held back and like I would have done it, reached out. I wish I had support, and I wish I would have just known things like pink cloud and like a topic today, like the messy middle, like what it looks like for them and us. That's really where everything came connected and came together for me, where I was like, oh, we're going to be okay. Other people have done it. Kind of gave me hope. Like, okay, I don't know what we're doing and I'm still walking on eggshells and I don't trust them, but I can see that they're doing okay and helping me see a different side of things. So I think support for families is huge. It just really is what changed it for me, where I could finally feel like, okay, it doesn't matter what my alcoholic's going to do because I can't control that. But I do have a group of people who are here for me, who know how I feel and support me and show me a different perspective when I need it.
It's wonderful. And I think, too, we don't necessarily realize how big of a change can happen in 30, 45 days when someone's an inpatient and how big of a drop off there can be for people. I hear often people, they get feeling so good in this environment of residential care or even PHP or IOP care that they go home and it's like so foreign now that it just causes conflict. It's like, I'm so happy and good, but whoa, we got bills to pay, life to do, and they will almost recede and go back to rehab. Like that's Johnny Depp was quoted once saying that the only place he felt good was in rehab. So I want to dig into that a little bit more, but just to kind of further that proposal is if families can do their own work and help understand what that's going to be like, I think it can lessen the blow a little and maybe merge those two worlds a little more effectively. So in this next Sorry, go ahead.
No, just absolutely. That I feel very strongly about that.
Okay. So this next session, I just want to go over 3 kind of paradigm shifts here. So what do people want? Well, most people in early recovery, these are things that they express, like they really, really want from their families. I want to be trusted again. I want communication to be clear. Be able to express my feelings. Because they talk a lot about feelings in rehab, and then my family didn't talk feelings. We just put everything under the rug. So they come home and they ask me about their feelings, like, weirdo, what are you talking about feelings for? Or just clear communication. They want to feel love and give love. They want forgiveness. They want to forgive and be forgiven. They want a fresh start. And they want all these things yesterday. So for that first section, what stands out to you, Sarah? Is there anything you would add to that?
This is a good list. I think that yeah, I think this is true for everyone coming out of treatment. Like, these are the things that they want. They have lots of shame and regret from things that have happened in the past. So a fresh start is huge. And if we're not willing to be open to, I don't know, that's where the communication comes in. If we don't even understand that that's where they're coming from, and we don't give them a chance, it just causes pain for both of us.
Well said. Well, and excuse the misspelling because I typed this up really fast, but what we often give is mistrust. And going back to, like, we've got a lot of wreckage. We've seen a lot of the addict side or the mental health disruptions. We give a lot of assumptions. We assume it's just going to be bad. When is the other shoe going to drop? When are things just going to fall apart? When are we going to have this PTSD story again? A lot of fear. We've got a lot of history showing us that this isn't going to go well. More of the same. And that's what we expect today. Anything relate to you on that, or anything you would add?
Yeah, all of these are things I definitely have gone through and felt. I feel like, for me, I was like, you can't just change overnight. And that's what it kind of felt like to me, that that's why I thought he was just tricking me. I'm like, is he think I'm buying this? Like, this change overnight. And just being able to see people in recovery, just be able to see the way people's lives change has helped open my eyes, where that's why I want to share these comments and these thoughts with family, because again, I just wish I would have had someone say, like, hey, they just want a fresh start. Like, you don't have to trust them, but maybe you could not assume you know what they're going to say or what they're going to do. Maybe you could listen. Maybe you could lead with love. Maybe you can, I think that would be helpful to know I don't have to do everything they want. Like, yes, you want a fresh start. That's great. But how does it look for us? But I can be supportive by just loving and listen.
Sounds like some awareness would have been really helpful on some of these pieces.
Awareness, yes.
So this last one, what is the middle? So what's something that's more compromising that can make sense during the messy middle? Long term, yes, we want to give them what they want, like in the long term, but that's not necessarily realistic. In short term, they really don't want all the mistrust, assumptions, and all the other junk either. So in the middle, is there a willingness to change? Is there willingness to try new things, like some of the tools you just suggested? Are we willing to put hope into those relationships? Hope that it can be different. Exercise our faith in our higher power, that there's forces around us helping develop other things that can help us grow. Are we willing to be tender with our emotions? I think the word tender it's really appropriate, because we're still very sensitive, and they are often very sensitive too. A lot of their emotions they haven't felt in a long time. They've been stuffing them, or they've been boiling under the surface for so long that when they start to come out, they breathe through them. They cry through them for days. I've had clients cry for days, and there's like, I don't know why I can't stop crying. It's because you haven't felt these emotions in years. You've been burying them. So recognizing these emotions are tender and they're very sensitive. You may not be able to tell them all the stuff you're mad about or all the things you wish you could have said when they were using or when their mental health was poor right away. Like it may just take time. And respecting that tenderness is really, really important. And accepting that um, this process is a thing that's going to take time. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be ugly sometimes, but it can also be beautiful. Owning your own stuff. Like, what can you do to become someone who can work with the tender emotions or change those patterns? Say if you were part of the problem where we don't talk emotions in this house, um, can you become someone who can be a safe place for emotions? Can you become someone who can be vulnerable and just sit through something hard? Because if you can do that, that may be the greatest gift you can give them to grow you to the next place in your relationship. You can help heal the past emotions, the present emotions, the future emotions. So, what stands out to you, Sarah, in this? What would you take away or add?
All of it's so good. Acceptance, I think, is the biggest one for me. Like I learned through different programs and family groups that like I have to just accept like he's an alcoholic. Like nothing I do, say, or nothing change that. He's an alcoholic, and if I accept that, then I it changes energy, it changes the vibe. Like I'm like, yep, you're an alcoholic. So now what? Like, so what? Okay, I accepted that. It doesn't mean I have to like it. It doesn't mean I have to agree with it. It doesn't mean that I love it. Yay, you're an alcoholic. This is great. But accepting that it's truth is huge. I think that's what helps you get to the willingness to be like, okay, you're an alcoholic. Okay, I'm willing to open up to the emotions. All of those things you said, am I willing? Like that, I know that that's who they are or what disease they might have. I I can be willing, and I think if once you decide to be willing, your energy changes. You're not waiting for the other foot to drop. You're not holding these resentments. You're not stuck in, well, you did this yesterday, and oh, remember last year? Remember the last Christmas we had? If you're willing, change energy, it changes your mindset of just, hey, I don't know what today's going to look like, but I'm willing to, I have hope. Hope is on there too, which is huge. Like I hope things are going to be okay. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm willing to give it a shot, to listen, to feel emotions, to talk, communicate, and see what they need and what I might need. It was hard for me to look at myself. It was hard for me to even say, what do I need out of this? I just kept saying, if he's sober, he's good. As long as he can get. And then we were stuck in a rut because I didn't know what I wanted. I wanted for so long to just have him be sober. And now it was like, now what? Okay, I accepted. I mean, I had a therapist tell me, okay, he's sober. Now what? Like, what if he's sober? Your plan. Oh, I want to move forward. You're right. I need to let go of things that all the pain, and we had to work through it. It's not easy, but it's so worth it. And communication, talking to someone, a therapist, is amazing resource to just have someone to talk to and be okay with. I am so mad at them. They've done this and this and this, and it's okay to feel that emotion. But if you let it control your day, it takes it out on everyone. Your energy is different. You can't. There's no hope. There's no willingness because you're holding on to anger. So talk through those emotions. That's what they're learning in treatment to, okay, what emotion are you feeling? Let's work through it. Why do you have that feeling? What are you going to do? What happens when you feel this next time? We should do the same thing for us as families. Like, okay, I have that. I'm angry, and that's okay. I deserve to be angry. I'm mad at all the things that they did. I accept now that they're an alcoholic, and there's nothing I can do about that because that was the past, but I can change today and have hope. So I just, so many good things on that list. Like I could just save this and print it, put it up somewhere so that people can see. Like those are just how we feel. That it's an amazing resource for families.
I love it. I think of how our lives are actually really short. If you, do we want to Do we want to get through our life with the people we say we love and look back and say, man, I really wish I would have cleared that stuff up. I really wish I would have been more loving, trusting, accepting. Or do we just wait to the very end? There's a quote that I really like is basically this. We save our favorite vices for last. And if our vice is I hold on to grudges, or I don't forgive easily, or I am impatient, or I'm impulsive, whatever those vices are, we save the ones we love for last. So if we can recognize that this person I'm with has definitely shined a light on my own vices too, and I can grow from this, doesn't mean they're going to change, but you surely can grow from any experiences that you have. And the more dark the experience, the more light you can bring into your life. So I honor you, Sarah, and I honor all families that are willing to do the work, because you're just going to grow exponentially where others might stay idle for years and then never express their feelings and never grow those connections. But I'm pretty dang sure that when your time comes and your time passes, you'll be able to look back and say, I lived really fully. And I'm grateful for those relationships. I'm grateful for all the struggles. Or I don't know everybody else will be able to say that.
It's been an amazing thing. I mean, a lot of hard things. We've done a lot, and there were dark times and dark moments and years. I wouldn't change any of it for today. The fact that I have joy and I just have this amazing life today, where I don't have to worry about if he's going to drink again. He's still an alcoholic, but if he relapses, he relapses. And I'm in a place now where I accept who he is and what happens. And I don't have to worry about it. I have a higher power in my life who I can rely on. I have community. I have family groups. I have just surrounded by people in recovery, which gives me strength. And I would never change any of those hard days ever, because I took the courage as well to face myself, to work a program for myself and say, you know what, there's things I need to change. I had sickness as well, and mine is more in my head. I was so obsessed with trying to get him to stop drinking that my whole day, everything about it, I wonder if he's driving today. I wonder if he's drinking. I wonder if I need to go look for more out. Like every minute of my day was obsessed with trying to get him to stop. And then once he did, I was like, oh, what kind of life am I living now? And I really finally turned to the point where I wanted recovery. I wanted to just figure out who I am, regardless of having that in my life. And it's been the biggest, most joy I've ever
had. I love that perspective shift of figuring out who you are apart from maybe those obsessive thoughts, or the role of wife, or the role of mother, the role of whatever you're playing. We play a lot of roles, but with all that anxiety and worry and depression around it, that's not much of a life to live. It's I don't know. I could see why that'd be really hard. And I also see that we can expand. Like, we don't have to be so limited. And when you expand your support group, you expand your friends, you expand your social systems, you're not alone. You expand your connection to higher power and God. You're not alone. So regardless of what other people do, you'll be sorry and sad for them, but you can still live your life and be prayerful and have the energy to give back in a positive way to them. I know one thing that's come up for me, and I think I brought this up in a previous training, but I was worrying so much about my loved one who was struggling that my health was shutting down. My mind was shutting down. I was becoming sick physically and mentally, and even spiritually. My faith was shutting down. I got to a point where I discovered that if I chose to worry about my loved one with some purpose, I'm going to worry about my loved one during prayer. I'm going to worry about my loved one during journal time. I'm going to worry about my loved one during meditation. But I'm not going to worry about my loved one the other 23 hours of my day. And it released this energy that was stuck between me and my loved one, that now we're actually connecting way better. And we're growing closer instead of always this worried energy. Oh crap. Always like, and it shocked my loved one at first. Thought he interpreted it as I was dismissive or not loving him as much. And it's not true. I had just chosen to live my life again and stop 24-hour day obsessing about something I could not fix. But does it mean I love him less? I don't believe so. I think I love him more because now I'm choosing to be very directive of it and also lead by my own life as an example. Taking my own health serious, taking my own mental health serious, taking my own spirituality serious. And hopefully that attracts him to want to live a better life himself.
Absolutely. That's amazing.
Thank you, sir. So for whoever's watching, think about this question above. What does your middle look like with your loved one? What does it look like now? And what do you want it to look like? Like, how would you like that to look? And start creating that life as best you can. And also, what's working and what's not working. That's kind of the model we use a lot in therapy and as well as in treatment centers, is that you got to go away from good, bad, right, wrong. Like that puts a lot of shame in people and shame in us. Shame is not productive. It doesn't really help you grow. All it does is break you down. So we change our language to more what works and what doesn't work. What is serving your life in a positive way? What is serving your life in a negative way? So taking away those layers of shame allow to really focus on the solution. And one of the solutions I love is from Thich Nhat Hanh. He's one of my favorite monks in the whole world. He was a peace advocate for many years. He's from Vietnam, lived through the Vietnam War, and he still advocated for peace all over. Like he didn't hold that grudge. But here's a quote I really like from him. He talks about compassionate listening. He says, "We listen with the willingness to relieve the suffering of the other person, not to judge or argue. We listen with all our attention." What would that mean to your relationships if you could model that? Any thoughts, Sarah?
All of this is so good. I mean, it really, like, they're your loved one. You love them. You want them to love you back. Like, it's respect for who they are and just so powerful. I love that you mentioned you don't have to worry for 23 hours. Like, yeah, take time, feel those emotions, do it. But then you can have happiness. You don't have to live in that rut. You don't have to move through it. It's so powerful, the willingness to want different, yeah, like everyone can have joy in their lives. It's just, are you willing?
Any wrap up advice you give to families that are from that section? I'll wrap up on this last piece. Any more that you want to cover?
I just don't be afraid to talk. Like the communication, like it's okay to ask questions. It's not going to cause them to drink or do any of those things. That was my fear. I was scared to just talk. Say, what does life look like? What do you think? And if I come at it with questions instead of like, what are you going to do tomorrow? I mean, that's a question. I guess that wasn't a good example, but it is about the approach. Like, well, how are you feeling today? How was this? What kind of things do you expect tomorrow? Instead of it sounding like an accusation or not trusting or like bringing the willingness to just, hey, how do you feel about that? What are your thoughts? I just think communication, like they're your loved ones. They want to know that you care, and questions are questions. And if you can keep it as questions and I just want to know, and this is how I feel, then those are just amazing tools to use with your loved ones while you're navigating this messy middle.
Messy middle. Something too that stood out to me as you were talking about that is a way that we can comfortably help someone in this phase is to also be like a mirror for them. So you may not necessarily have a question, but you might say, you seem like you're feeling a little down today. And then, oh, I guess I am giving that off. Maybe I am feeling a little down. Or another mirror might be, seem like things are going really well for you. I am. Things are going really well. Thanks for noticing. So you don't even have to necessarily ask a question, but you can mirror their body language. Our body language gives us so much information, and it might lead to more deep, profound insight. Because as we're growing in the messy middle, we're learning how to connect to our inside and realign with our internal compass. And sometimes it's north is south and east is west, and it's not really, and it's going all over. So if we can be a healthy mirror for them, we can also grow and relearn their body language, relearn where they're at, but come off non-judgmental either. It's not judging someone to say, hey, you look like you're having a tough time. Are you feeling sad today? Are you feeling whatever? Unless you say it really rude and sarcastically, it's not. Any thoughts on that, Sarah?
I love it because really I didn't know how to trust. I talk to people all the time, like, I don't know how to trust him again. Like, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know but in conversations like that, it's opening it up to be like, hey, I'm noticing how great you're doing today. Like, it feels like it's a good day for you. Like, what does that feel like? What's going on? But that shows like, hey, I am trusting you with my feelings. Like, it's just baby steps to just build this huge, amazing thing. But coming with love like that and just noticing them and seeing them, I just think that's huge for trust. And that just, opens the doors wide open.
So this final section is on basically trust. So I think it's great you finished with that word, consistency. So change takes consistent actions over time. As we are more consistent in our healthy ways of interacting, we build trust in ourselves and with others. So I love the marble jar. This is an analogy of how you build trust. You show up for someone, you say what you're going to say, and you do what you're going to do. Put a marble in the jar. When someone's in their early recovery in the messy middle, they may only have a few marbles in your jar. But pay attention as they're trying to put marbles in your jar. Also put marbles in their jar by, showing them the same kind of love and respect and kindness and doing what you say and saying what you do. Build that trust. And consistency over time, what starts out as just a few marbles may end up being a full jar very soon. Or it might take a little longer, depending on the relationship. But both sides take action, and they take noticing too. I do hear often people say, well, no one notices when I do good. Nobody notices when I'm trying. They only notice when I'm doing bad. They only notice when I'm messing up. And then all hands are on deck and 911 is being called. Why do we not notice when someone's on the other side? Any thoughts on this, Sarah?
Perspective. That's just really, nobody told me. I wish I would have had someone be like, hey, you know what you could do? Like, notice, like, how does it feel when you get noticed? It feels great. Okay. So, that's just like an amazing tool for families to have. It's just being aware. Like, I don't think I did it because I was so caught up in just all of the things I had to do. And now we built that trust, and it just comes more naturally to just treat someone you love like that, regardless what they're going through. So letting families know, like, hey, there's good times and bad times. Vocalizing that is just an amazing tool to give people. Like, what a gift to give someone to, you know what? This is something I'm working on. I don't know if it resonates with you. Those are just great conversations to have with people.
I had one client who didn't think her mom could ever change. She didn't think her mom would ever understand. And in a family session, her mom shared some really hard stuff she was going through. And my client's like, I didn't know my mom struggled with things. She never talks about stuff. And then she shared some things she was struggling with. And after, her perspective of her mom started to shift. Oh, my mom is a human being. My mom has life issues. My mom still has things. And I think sometimes people get a fixed mindset around the people in their lives and they have a really hard time seeing a different possibility. And
Yeah.
maybe sometimes they're right. I mean, let's be honest, some people are really, really stuck. But if we can give people the benefit of the doubt and put some trust, test those relationships. Hey, I love you. It's good to see you. Oh, you do? You never said that before. Well, I'm saying it now. Oh, I love you too. Like that's just one little drop. And it might create something beautiful over time.
Absolutely. I love that.
So thank you, Sarah. Thank you for everyone who's taking time to watch this and learn and grow with your families. As a reminder, there's lots of resources available to you. We have coaching, we have this weekly program. We also have the resources to watch all the past recordings as well as additional things that we put in there. Take time to do it. Invest in yourself, invest in your family, and you will grow. Sarah, do you have anything you want to finish off with, and we'll call it good?
You're worth it, just like your loved ones are worth it. Like they're struggling, they're in a rut. I was struggling, I was in a rut. We're worth it to have love and joy and just and have each other in our lives. So take the time.
Thank you so much, Sarah. You are amazing. I love your family. I love what you're doing and love the work you've been putting in. Appreciate you taking the time to help us out tonight.
You too, Jared. Thank you.